Congressman Mike Pence of Indiana have new legislation to indefinitely extend the current tax rates. Yet both also say Washington needs to do a better job balancing its books. So does their math add up? Senator DeMint and Congressman Pence joins us now from Capitol Hill. If you match up the strategy, what your leaders are doing in these negotiations with the White House right now, with the legislation you gentlemen propose, to you, Senator, first, is it fair to say you believe at the moment your leaders are being too timid? They should be asking for more.
Well, I know they need to negotiate, but what Mike and I want to do is to allow every congressman and senators an up and down vote on a permanent extension. What we hear from the business community and individuals all over the country is we need some certainty. You can't plan to grow a business in 6 to 12 months. Sometimes it's a 5 or 10-year process. So to have certainty in what the tax rates will be is much more important than a temporary extension of the current rates. We don't need a temporary economy, and so we don't need temporary tax rates.
And yet, as both of you describe yourself as fiscal conservatives, Congressman, do you think you have the obligation then to put forward at the same time, the Congressional Budget Office says extending those tax cuts over 10 years would cost about $4 trillion in red ink. Would you put forward offsetting budget cuts and saying, look, here's what we'll cut as we cut these taxes as well?
Well, look, there's no question, and Senator DeMint and I are of one mind and have been for many years. We've got to put our fiscal house in order with restraint, with budget cuts, with entitlement reform. But job one right now needs to be to get this economy growing again. And I got to tell you, the last thing, back home in Indiana, the last thing anybody wants to see Washington do in the worst economy in 25 years is raise taxes on anybody. And the House actually just voted today to allow a tax increase on small business owners and family farmers, and what Jim and I are advocating, I think would be broadly supported by the majority of the American people, and that is not a tax increase in 4 weeks, not a tax increase in 1 year or 2 years, but to say let's begin the pathway back to prosperity by saying that the tax rates are what they are. Let's permanently extend all the current tax rates, and then we can begin to build and rebuild our economy on top of that certainty.
Is that an absolute position for both of you? I ask that in the context of this debate we're now going to have about the President's Commission on Deficit Reduction and the plan they put forward. Perhaps they can't get enough votes to force a vote in the Congress, but they have laid out a plan that is eye-opening in some ways. And one of the things they insist that, yes, you need to raise the retirement age and do some things in Social Security, get some money out of Medicare, make some cuts across the government, the Pentagon and everything else. But they also insist that in the end, they would prefer a flatter tax code, take away some of the loopholes and some of the deductions, but also a bit of a tax increase in the end. Is that completely off the table for both of you?
Well, John, I'll start. I do like the flat rate tax. I would throw all the deductions out the window if we could have a lower flat tax rate. I don't think we need to increase taxes. And getting back to your previous point, keeping tax rates the same should not be considered $1 trillion or more cost to the government. We're just keeping the money in the private sector where it's been earned. So again, both of us want to see us address the debt issue. One of the most important things we could do to address the debt is get the economy going again, and a permanent extension of the current tax rates would give our businesses, our individuals, our entrepreneurs more predictability so they could plan to add jobs in the future.
Yeah, and John, I really think it's a really important point to emphasize that. And let me also agree on the flat tax. Like Jim and I are talking about building some legislation that would be a true flat tax to be offered in the Congress after the turn of the year. But let me say, I really do believe the American people deserve to know the debate that's going on right now is not even about tax cuts. Nobody's talking about cutting taxes in Washington. All we're talking about is whether we're going to raise taxes on some Americans or whether we're going to allow Congress, the House and the Senate, to have a fair up or down vote on extending all the current tax rates. We're arguing that ought to be permanent, but let's let the House and the Senate work their will. Let's bring the DeMint Pence bill to the floor and let's get on with it. And I like our chances. If we can get a vote on the floor, I think we could extend all these tax rates for the American people.
Let me try to quickly get through a couple other issues. I know, Congressman Pence, you have a vote you need to get to. The military brass, Secretary Gates, Admiral Mullen, some others came up to the Senate side today and said they believe the conditions are now in place, and they say they have a detailed study that makes them confident that it is time to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Senator DeMint, to you first. A good idea?
No, I don't think it's a good idea. As you know, gays can serve in the military now. And the studies that I've seen, the generals I've talked to who are free to express their opinions, are saying this would be bad for morale. It would be an adjustment that's not necessary. Let's allow people to serve unless they want to make an issue of their sexuality. And the military is telling us now that's not a good idea. So this is not a good time to come in and make a change like this. Morale is at an all-time high in our military. They're stretched thin all over the world. This is a political move. It has nothing to do with the security of our country. So we just need to take that off the table.
You in the same place, Congressman?
Well, I really am. Number one, there's no higher priority for the national government than to provide for the common defense. And we ought not to use the American military as a backdrop for social experimentation or debating domestic policy issues. The focus ought to be on readiness. It ought to be on recruitment. It ought to be on retention, unit cohesion. And I got to tell you, John, what I heard when I was in Afghanistan about a week ago, I was in a mess hall. I sat down with completely unscripted conversation with about a dozen different soldiers on the front lines in Operation Enduring Freedom. There were Democrats at the table, Republicans at the table, but every single, to my memory, every single one of those combat soldiers looked at me and said, go back to Congress and tell them don't do this. And I think when you look at that Pentagon study, there's actually a difference between the opinions expressed in that survey by people that are downrange in combat versus other people serving in different roles in the military. So I don't believe the time has come to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I really believe our soldiers that are at the tip of the spear know that, and we ought to put their interest in the interest of our national security first.
One last quick one here. Senator DeMint, your Senate PAC, your conservative PAC, sent out an email essentially targeting Democrats who refused to vote to ban earmarks, who were on the ballot in 2012, saying this about them: these senators are nice folks, but they've ignored the will of the American people, and they must be replaced with principled conservatives in 2012. The email targeted Democrats, but as you know, a number of Republicans also refused to vote to ban earmarks. I'll only focus on one of them. There were 8, but one of them, Dick Lugar, is on the ballot in 2012. He's from Congressman Pence's home state of Indiana. Senator DeMint, would you target him as well? Does he need to be replaced by what you would call a principled conservative?
Well, I've let Dick know I'm going to keep my focus on Democrats because compared to the Democrats, every Republican in the Senate is a conservative. But I think you're going to see a lot of these Republicans who are continuing to stress taking home the bacon. They're going to have primaries, and John Cornyn, our chairman of the Senate committee, has warned them to expect a primary. So I'm their least worry right now. I think you're going to see Americans continue to keep the pressure on parochial spending.
Senator, you've told me in the past you're not going to run for president in 2012. What about the guy standing next to you? He's making moves, and he might run for the Republican nomination. What do you think?
I think he might make a good president, so we need to keep our eye on him.
All right, we will keep an eye on him. Congressman Pence, I know you have a vote. Thank you for your patience with us. Senator DeMint, gentlemen, thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
A huge snub for the United States today on the world.